Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Springtime Flower Truck, and I'm going to be sipping on some blueberry tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, fluorescent purple, green oxide, Mars black, chrome yellow, fire red, and ultramarine blue. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like to, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have two drawing utensils. I have a standard number 2 pencil as well as a white piece of chalk that I'll be using for drawing at different times during the painting. I also have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 6 bright synthetic brush, and I have a number 5 round synthetic brush. And I will most likely call these small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process, or I'll just call them by their name. You can certainly switch those up if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link directly to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, or you could purchase the brushes or other painting supplies that I like to use. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to draw an outline for our landscape. I'm going to be using my pencil to draw. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that is comfortable to you. I'm going to guide you through a series of markers. We're going to connect those markers. And by the time we're done, we'll have a section for our sky, a section for our road, and 2 sections for our grassy areas. So I'm going to find myself about halfway up or down the left-hand side of my canvas, which for me is, I would say, somewhere in this vicinity. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up from that almost a quarter of the way to the top of my canvas. So this is about quarter way. I'm a little bit below that. So that's going to be my first marker. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a similar exercise on the other side. You could certainly use a brush as a measuring tool or something to give you kind of a marker at about the same height as you have on this side, and then just connect those 2 markers. It doesn't have to be a straight line. This is just going to help us delineate the sky from the land. As you can see, mine's not straight, and it doesn't matter if it is or not. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to find myself back at about that halfway point. I'm going to come up from that about 1 inch, give myself another marker, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom right-hand corner of my canvas, come up about 1 inch, give myself a marker, and then I'm going to connect these 2 with a curved line. This is going to be the top side of our road, so something like that. Well, apparently I can't sketch today. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself the center of the bottom of my canvas, so somewhere in this vicinity, give myself another marker. And then from here, or from the back at the kind of center point, if you come down about 1 inch from the center or about 2 inches from here, give yourself another marker, and then connect these 2 with a little bit of an arcing line. And that's all we're going to be doing for that step. We're going to use our large bristle brush for the next step, so you can put your drawing utensil away, take out your large bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be using the large bristle brush in order to paint the sky and the base coat on the grassy areas and to paint the road. I'm going to be using blue, white, yellow, green, brown, red, and black. So all my colors except for my fluorescent purple I'll be using on this step. So I'm going to start with blue and white on the sky. I'm picking up both ultramarine blue and white at the same time, about equal parts of both. And I'm going to be applying my paint in a circular brush stroke. So what I'm doing here is I am creating a kind of cloudy type of a sky. You could certainly do yours in a very smooth type of way. Whatever works for you is totally fine. I'm going to put some of this blue on here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pick up white on my dirty brush, and I'm going to allow myself to just continue this circular motion all the way down to where I have my my pencil marker. That way I can have a nice kind of transition behind what will be my distant. I'm going to have some little distant hills of sorts or trees. So this will all be kind of sitting behind that. If you wanted to have brighter clouds or, you know, a bluer sky, you could certainly modify this whatever way you want. I just wanted mine to kind of be subtle in nature, so it didn't steal the show away from the beautiful flowers and truck, but you could certainly make yours any way that you want. And then what I'm going to do, that's looking pretty good, I'm just kind of softening this out before I move on to my next area. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to paint the road. So I'm going to be using mostly brown on the road, but I'll also use a little white, maybe a little yellow, maybe a little red to make like little rusty tones. You could have a regular pavement and make it gray. You could really do anything that you want. Most of this is going to be covered by the truck and a little bit of a shadow behind the truck. The area that you'll see the most is up and through here, so I wouldn't worry about getting it too terribly perfect. This is really just going to be where the truck is traveling. So I'm just using brown paint to start, and I'm just kind of putting it on in a directional brush stroke. As I come towards this left-hand side, I'm going to now pick up a little bit of white on my dirty brush, so my road will get lighter and lighter over here on this left-hand side to add a little bit of dimension. And you know, the truck is going off into the distance and off into the sunshine. You could certainly, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of yellow and red on my dirty brush, a little bit of each to give myself, and blend it onto the canvas. This is going to give myself a little bit of kind of rusty tones, like maybe a little dirt. You could certainly dot it if you wanted to give it a little bit more texture. So you could really make this into whatever type of road you want. You might even want to do 2 coats to it, but I would recommend just waiting to see what it's going to look like once we get the truck on there before you make any determination if you want to add more to it. So once I've got that on there, I am going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to put my grass in. I did my road first because I wanted my grass to kind of overlap this little edge here and that little edge, so I figured it would be easier to put my grass on afterwards. And we're going to be modifying the edges of the grass anyways. So I'm going to start up at the top with yellow, white, and a little bit of green on my brush. So I have yellow, white, and a little bit of green. I want this to just be nice and light and sunshiny up at the top. I don't even need heavy paint because I have a nice white base underneath my paint, so I can just kind of almost stain or rub this on the canvas, and it's going to give it this nice like springtime, summer, sunshiny grass up at the top. Don't worry about your pencil mark because we will be eliminating that later, but if you feel that you're going to have trouble doing that, you could always just put a tiny bit of white paint on your brush and just bring that little bit of extra white on top of your pencil mark. We're going to, again, have some land going on back there later, so that'll cover that. So once I've got that brightness up at the top, now I can continue to pick up green and yellow as I come down my grass, and it'll get a little bit darker. And again, this is just the base coat of my grass, so I don't need it to be a really heavy coat right now. I'm just looking to give myself somewhere that I'll be able to build some texture on later, and it's going to give me a nice solid foundation for that texture that I want to add to it. As I come closer to the viewer down below, I want my grass to get a little bit darker, so I'm picking up just green right now. So just green is on my brush right now as I'm coming down below. And this right hand side, whatever you have from here down should kind of match what you have over on this side. So I'm just using green right now, and in a second I'm going to pick up black so it goes a little bit darker down below. And as you get towards the road, you can certainly bump into it. Now I have finger marks in my road. You can certainly bump into it, and you can do the same up in through here. You don't have to worry about totally covering that edge right now because we have a future step that will take care of that. But I'm just going to bring this right up along the edge, bump into your road. That's what's going to make it look nice and natural. And then I'm going to start picking up green plus a touch of black as I go down towards this bottom area in through here. And you might not be able to do that left to right type of brush stroke, just something in this little area, just something that's going to get it nice and dark in through here. Again, you could be tapping it, you could be kind of swirling it, whatever gets you some just a good controlled layer of paint in through there. And again, green and black over on this side to get this bottom section in through here, bringing it right to my road. And then once I've got this step done, I am going to be using this same brush for the next step. So I will wash it and dry it. Just going to kind of maybe tap this down here. This is going to get the most amount of texture. So I'll just kind of start the process in through there. And that looks pretty good. Let me just stick a little bit more green in through here. And then wash and dry this brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm going to paint little distant trees off at the top on my horizon line. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, green, blue, and white. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to make a really out of focus type of assembly of trees, maybe a little hill or something. I'm going to have very little bit of paint on my brush. I'm going to be putting kind of a dark area down at the bottom on this right side. Then I'm going to transition to some little trees with green, blue, and white. I'm using blue so it sets it further in the dimensional depths of the painting, and then I'll just bring a little bit on over in through here. So I'm going to start with a teeny tiny bit of brown and black on my brush. So little, it's just on the little tip of my brush. I'm going to start over here on this right hand side, and I'm just going to kind of rub it in to the canvas. And if you feel like you have a ton of paint and it's not kind of dissipating the way that mine is, wipe your brush off on your paper towel and you can just kind of lift some of it off of the canvas. You don't need it to, it should almost kind of be dry on your canvas so it doesn't really bleed into or taint all of the other paint that you have on there. And then I'm just going to kind of bring it down into this landscape just a little bit. Maybe there's a couple of little fields or whatnot off in the distance, and just use your imagination, whatever you feel that might be. So now what I'm going to do, if you or I have lots of black and brown on your brush, you can just give it a quick rinse. If you hardly have any on there, it's not really necessary, but if you did, I would recommend kind of giving it a rinse. Then I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of green, brown, and blue, just an itty bitty bit of all three colors, and I'm going to overlap this into my dark landscape or the dark area down below. I feel like I want a little bit more green and blue on my brush because I feel it's a little bit too, oops, I just picked up white by accident. Green and blue, not green and white. Green and blue on my brush. And this is going to create just this little illusion of an off in the distance type of landscape. I'm just kind of tapping, swirling around my brush a little bit to give me this illusion of little trees off in the distance. You can make yours bigger or smaller. I'm using the diversity of the colors that are just kind of rubbing off from my brush. I don't need to do a whole heck of a lot. I just picked up a little tiny bit more of my blue and my green just to get this little tiny bit over in through here that we'll see in front of the truck as the truck is rolling down this country landscape. And you could, of course, bring some of this right into the grassy area. If you wanted to make any of these marks look a little bit more like sunshine, you can pick a tiny bit of white paint up on your brush. But again, be careful with the white. It will make the painting, or it will make these hills and stuff really kind of muted, and then you might not be able to see them as much. But if you wanted to add any kind of little details in through there, you could certainly add the essence of little highlights and stuff in through there. And I'm thinking that's pretty good. I'm picking up a tiny bit more green and blue, just maybe give myself maybe another little essence over here. I'm thinking that's pretty good. Maybe a little bigger tree over in through here. You can do whatever you want. Make it as much as you want. Trees, hills, anything. Again, most of it's going to be covered by the truck. And then I'm going to be using my chalk for the next step. So once you've got your landscape all nice and created, you can put this large brush away, take out any kind of drawing utensil that you would like to use, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for our truck. I'm going to be using my piece of chalk. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that is comfortable to you. I do recommend before you start this step that you make sure that your canvas is dry. So this is that time where you get to take an extra long break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry. Or you can do as I did and just whip out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. So I'm going to be guiding you through a series of markers, and we're going to connect those markers so we have the opportunity to just draw some basic shapes, a nice simple outline that we'll be able to utilize during the coloring in process of our truck. So I'm going to start you off with a rectangle. What you can do is find yourself the center of your canvas, top to bottom, left to right. So for me, that's right about in through here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up from that about 1.5 inches or so, somewhere in through here, and about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, or almost like halfway between my horizon line and my road, somewhere in through here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the left of that about 3.5 inches, and to the right of it about 3.5 inches. So these two should be about equal distance away from the top of the canvas. And then you can just connect these with the top line of your rectangle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come straight down from here until this, for me, is about 5 inches in height, and my width of here is about 7.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is just come down straight from here till for me, I'm still in my road a little bit, but I'm about, I would say, 1/4 of the way up my canvas, somewhere in through here. And then I can just connect these two lines. And then I'll do the same thing over here, make myself at a marker at about the same distance as here. And in order, if you want to make sure that your line is the same length, you can take like your brush or something like that and say, okay, well, I made this line this long. Then I can come over to this side and make my line, give myself another marker at the same length. And then I'm just going to connect here to here and here to here. And now we're going to draw everything off of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from the center of my top area in through here. I'm going to go up maybe about 3 inches or so, somewhere in through here. This will be the top of my truck. I'm going to connect here to over here with a curved line, and then here to here with a curved line. And I'm going to create a little window in through here. You can have whatever size window that you want. It can be oval, it can be square, whatever you want. I'm going for kind of like a little bit of an oval type of a shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come onto the left-hand side of my truck, and I'm going to be first creating like the bottom wheel well of the back tire. So I'm going to come from this corner here and draw myself a little diagonal line that's maybe about an inch long like this. And then I'm going to go a horizontal line about an inch, something like that. That'll work in through there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from this little marker about halfway between here and here, and I'm going to draw, this is going to be a diagonal line because my truck is a little bit turned. It's going over into the road. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of connect here to this corner here with a little bit of a diagonal line. So just something like that. Doesn't have to be much, just a little itty bitty diagonal line. You'll see why in a minute. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a little tire underneath here. So I'm going to come in from this marker just a little bit, come down here, and then go to the right of this marker a little bit, make myself that wheel. I'm going to come from here, this little corner here. I want to give myself another diagonal line that's at the same angle. So you can use your brush or, again, anything of a straight nature. And I'm going to give myself another diagonal line right about in through here. So this one is about 1/2 inch and this one is about 1 inch because this one's farther away from the viewer. Now I'm going to make a whole bunch of little lines. Again, I'm going to make myself a horizontal line similar to that, a little vertical line, just a little tiny one, and then another little horizontal or diagonal line that's going to be the same as these two. So something like that. So these are just little tiny lines. You'll see how they all play out in a little bit. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to this corner in through here. I'm going to come down about 1.5 inches and out about 1/2 inch, somewhere in through there. I'm going to connect here to here with a curved line, and then here to here with another curved line. Like that. I need to put another wheel underneath here, so I'm going to come in from this corner a little bit, give myself a little curve, and then in from this corner a little bit, give myself a little curve. I need to put the back end of my truck on, so I'm going to come down from this corner, I would say about 1.5 inches, somewhere in through there. And then I'm going to draw a little diagonal type of a line. My diagonal is going to be similar to the diagonal I have down here. So it's just a slight diagonal, and it's going to end up about halfway between here and here. So if you go about halfway between here and here, and then just go up just a smudge, that'll give you, that's my technical measurement, a smudge, and just give yourself a diagonal line. I'm now going to come straight down from this corner here until I'm a little bit higher than here. So again, we're creating these little bits of diagonals to give us a little bit of perspective, and then connect here to here. So this should all be just a continual diagonal in through there. I'm going to now connect here to here, like this, and then I'm going to put a low bumper sticking out over in through here. I need to put a tire underneath the truck, so I'm just going to come in from here a little bit, give myself a little semi-circle type of a shape. So now, so I don't get confused during the painting process, I'm going to take my bright brush with a little bit of water on it and erase some of these guidelines. I'm going to erase this one. I'm going to, in essence, erase my rectangle. I'm going to erase this one. I'm going to erase this top one in through here, and then this one in through here. And then we're going to be using our, let's see, what are we going to use? We're going to use this bright brush for the next step. So this would be kind of your medium brush for the next step. So you can make any little adjustments you want, take out a bright brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our truck. I'm going to be using my number 6 bright brush. The colors that I'm going to use are blue, yellow, white, and black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom color for my truck, which will be a nice custom country blue. And then I'll be using black to do the base coat for my tires. So I've pre-mixed myself my custom color down here on my palette. I'll show you how I got to it. So what this color is a combination of mostly ultramarine blue, And then I used a tiny bit of yellow in order to steer it a little on the greener side. And then I added a teeny tiny bit of white paint in order to help with the opacity. So this way I've got myself a nice soft country blue. You could of course make yours any shade or color that you want. I'm just mimicking mine after some old antique trucks that I was seeing during my research of this kind of fun vintage truck. So once I get that color in there, I am just going to paint a base coat on the whole truck. I don't need this to be a solid color at this point. I'm really just looking to go around my chalk mark, give myself a place to start for when I go to put all of the details on there. And you could certainly modify the shape of your truck as you're going through this initial layering process of the color. So if you're going through this and you're saying, oh, I want the top of mine to be flat, or I want it to be a little bit more round shaped, or you want yours to be a car, or whatever you want yours to be, feel free to use this step to just kind of reshape it a little bit. I am leaving a little bit of my chalk mark or my guideline evident around the edges, because I know me and I tend to paint outside the lines or make objects way bigger than they need to be if my guidelines disappear. So I am just kind of leaving the evidence of those guidelines, so as I go through the painting process I don't lose my way too much, and if I do a little bit I'll just hide it with a big flower or something, and I'm just going along the edge. I like these bright brushes to do these kind of clean edges like this, just because I've got some good control as to almost like a firm type of edge on my bristle, so it'll give me that clean edge that I want. I'm just kind of going around the edges right now, and then I'll do the interior of it nice and quickly, but this way I can get these done while I'm just kind of in that outlining type of process, and then I can just color in this whole inside with a nice solid color. Again, I'm going to be able to see through my paint. I do use a student grade paint, which tends to be on the thinner side, which means you can typically see through it for the first layer or two, but I am a layering type of painter, so I love to add lots and lots of layers to my paintings to give lots of dimensional elements and things of that nature. So this type of paint really works well for my painting style. You might find that you like thicker paint or paint with better pigments to it, but this works out pretty well for me. So now that I've got my base coat on here, I'm actually going to go right around my window. That's a little too wobbly shaped for me, so I'm going to just kind of go around it one more time, give myself the shape that I was envisioning. There we go. That looks better. And of course I'm going to hide a lot of that with flowers, so I don't have to worry about it too much. Then I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm just going to put black on these tires. So we will be doing a lot of additional details to the truck, but right now I'm just putting in minimal information because I just want to put these base coats on, and I don't need to do anything too fancy to this right now. You could of course use a smaller brush when it comes to putting these tires on, simply because it's a really small little area that I'm painting, and if this brush is too large for you to do a little detail like that, you're more than welcome to switch brushes anytime you want. You never ever have to use the same exact brushes that I'm using. I use the brushes that work well for my hand and the way that I can control my hand. Yours is probably different than mine. And then I'm going to be using my large brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put the bright brush away, take out the large bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the road, and we're going to put a second layer on our grass. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm using are brown, black, green, yellow, and white. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. I might use a little red, but not sure about that yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big shadow underneath my truck, and then I'm going to finish or put more texture in my grass on that side of the road as well as on this side of the road. And I'm also going to put a little bit more finished texture on my road. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of black and brown on my brush at the same time, just a little bitty bit. I'm going to put a shadow underneath my truck. So my light source in my head, I have it to the left, to the top, and over to, you know, the left front top of my truck. So the shadow is going to be underneath my truck and a little bit to the right. So I'm just going to take my brown and black and I'm just rubbing it so you can see some of the gravel from the road underneath it. I don't know if I would have much underneath this area, but I'm going to rub it on anyways. Again, I hardly have any paint on my brush, so this is allowing me to do what's referred to as like a scumbling or a scrubbing type of effect. I want a little bit more than that on the right side, so I'm picking up a little bit more brown and black so I can bring this a little bit further over in through here. I feel that you'd be able to catch some of this shadow coming over down into this direction. And again, I'm going to put some more grass and stuff like that on top, or highlights and stuff like that on top of my gravel. But again, just a little bit more black and brown. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this remnants that I have on my brush right now to put a little bit of, well, actually I need more than that. I don't have any paint on my brush. A little bit of that brown and black. I'm going to put a little bit right here where the road meets the grass. So this way we've got a little bit of dimensional element in that grassy area. And I'd probably have a little bit of shadow from what's going to be this grass in here on the road itself. So I'm going to put just a little bit of darkness right along this edge of my road as well, because I've got unmanicured grass and that we're going to be putting on in a minute, so that, or in a little while, so that would make sense to me to have some of that kind of displayed on the pavement. So that looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do, I just want to do another messy layer on my gravel. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown and a touch of white, just a itty bitty bit. I'm going to just kind of give myself, I got lots of darkness on my brush, so I guess I'm going to start down here. I'm just going to give myself what is going to appear to be just a little bit more gravel in that road. I just had too much brush marks for my liking on this first layer, so this is going to help me get rid of those. So brown and white is going on my brush, and again, just kind of giving myself, I'm just kind of rubbing it around, giving myself a little bit more texture. You can go right into and bump your truck if you need to. That's going to make it a little bit more believable when we go to paint the truck if you've brought that gravel all the way to the truck. You don't want to leave an unpainted area. And again, I want this left-hand side to be a little bit lighter because I feel like I want it to read as though the truck is traveling towards the light. So that looks pretty good. And we'll have lots of other details and stuff on top of this. A little bit more brown is going on my brush for this guy, this area and through here. There we go. And then I'm going to put a second layer on my grass. So I'm going to actually wash and dry my brush because I want to put some texture as it's coming towards the viewer. Wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of green paint on my clean brush, and I'm going to just kind of start tapping it on top of some of that lighter yellow and green that we had. Not a lot. I don't want to get rid of all that yellow and green, but what I want to do is just make sure it looks like the in focus grass that we're going to be putting on in a little while. Oops, I just picked up a little black. Transitions into that soft grass off in the distance. So this is just a bit of green on my brush right now, just giving it some additional texture. I'm going to put a tiny bit over here on this area right where it meets the road. So this is gonna, again, just give me a good transition from one out of focus area, which is the grass off in the distance, to the in focus grass, which is gonna be down in through here. So that's looking pretty good. It looks pretty similar from one side to the next. I'm gonna pick up a tiny bit of green and brown just to give myself just a little bit more right here on this roadside in through here, just to make sure it's got a little bit more dimension to it there. That looks good to me. And then I'm going to put a little bit down in through here. So I have green and brown on my brush right now, which is where I think I'm gonna start over here, I guess. So green and brown just giving me my second layer of textured grass in through here, and doing the same thing over here. So I think compared to here, maybe just pick up a little bit of green. You can start to overlap it in front of that road a little bit, and again later we'll be adding more wild grass on top of it. And then as I'm coming down towards this bottom, you can go green and brown and or green, brown, and black. I might do a little bit of black down towards the bottom, but this is where I'm just kind of tapping it with my brush to give myself this real textured type of effect. And I feel like I do want to go a little bit black down here, so I'm going to go green with a little bit of black on my brush, and this is going to give great dimension in that grass, especially when we start putting, I'm going to have long kind of wild pieces of grass on it later, but this gets the party started. And I'm going to bring this darkness with a little bit of black and green over on this right hand side. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this large brush away. I think maybe this would be a little dark underneath this bumper too. You can put this large brush away, take out a small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the second step to our truck. I'm going to use my number 5 round brush. The dominant colors that I'm going to be using are black and my custom truck blue, but I might go into other colors. I don't think I'm going to, but my head is that's all I'm using on this step. What I'm in essence going to be doing is I'm going to be putting in place like the wheel wells, the door, the side window. I'm going to put a big marking for the bed of the truck. We're going to section out where the bumper of the truck is going to go. We are going to have tons of stuff in the back of the truck, lots of flowers and boxes and all kinds of greenery and stuff. So I'm not terribly concerned about my details in through here, but what I do want to have happen is that wherever there's going to be little peekaboo spots of the truck outside of those flowers, that we've attended to those and that it looks like it would work. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to put in a whole bunch of black outlines. I'm going to be using this brush. I'm going to be using a touch of water with black on my brush at all times, so I have a nice thinned out black paint so I can create some pretty decent lines with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to section out my bumper. So what I'm going to do from this little marker in through here, I'm actually going to pull this line into my section in through here, right almost about right above my tire in through there. Then I'm going to give myself a vertical line that's about 1.5 inches tall. So the top of this line is about at the same height as the top of the bumper over here. So if you want to measure from one side to the other to make sure these are about the same height, that would put you in the same perspective as mine. So the bumper should be a little bit more narrow on that right side than it is on the left side. And then you just connect these two markers in through there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some markers that are going to separate the bed of the truck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in from here, maybe about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, somewhere in through here. And then I'm going to go all the way up. I'm going to give myself a vertical line that's going to be at about the same height as here. It might be a little bit higher, which would make sense, but again, it's going to be hidden with flowers, so it doesn't need to be perfect. Something like that. Now I'm going to give myself a diagonal line that's similar to this one. That's going to end up a little bit shy of how far over this is here. So if I come down here, maybe a little bit above this wheel well, somewhere in through here, and over to the right a bit, somewhere in through here. That's where I'm going to put the end of this diagonal line, and it should be pretty similar to that one over in through there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I'm actually going to just put an outline around my window with black paint. I'm like, I'm here now, I want to do this now. So I'm going to just put a little black outline around the inside of my window. And again, this is just a little detail that I know most of it's going to be covered with my flowers, but it'll help to clean up this little edge in through here. And then if you have any little chalk marks that's still evident after that, you can certainly erase it with some water and get rid of it that way. So I need to finish this area in through here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my window, which is going to be right at the top of this little bump in through here. I'm just going to do a little curved mark in through here and color this area in with black paint. And again, we'll put lots of little details around it later, just adding that in through there. That's looking pretty good. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this line I'm going to bring it all the way down to this little intersection in through here. So this front part of the truck right in through here, you can just kind of bring that straight down into here. That's going to separate the door from the front wheel well. I'm now going to put on my wheel wells. So this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come kind of where this little corner is in through here, a little bit to the left of that, something like that. And then I'm going to give myself an arcing line like this. This is going to be where the wheel is going to be sitting inside of here, and we'll put some edge to the truck on afterwards, and we'll make that wheel have a little bit of color to it as well. So this is just kind of separating out that section. I'm going to do the same thing for the other wheel in through here. So a little bit to the left of this corner, right in through there. And then this has got to be a little bit lower in height than this one. And it comes all the way down to this little corner in through here. So something like this. And then give myself this little curve right here that meets my marker down in through here, and then color this whole section in with black paint. And again, we'll make the wheel actually pop out in a minute in a future detailed step, but we're just kind of putting all of our pieces in place right now. I'm going to make sure that this kind of stays at the angle that I wanted it at. That looks good. This is at the angle similar to that, and if it's not perfect, it's all right. And then I need to put the top corresponding bump of this wheel well similar to that one. So I'm going to go higher than this one, right about in through here, and then just give this a curve similar to this curve, only a little bit bigger, and bring it right down to here. So that'll separate that out. And then I need to separate the wheel well from the bed of the truck. So I just need to do another vertical line, maybe about half to a quarter inch away from this one in through here, and then just bring it up about in through here. And these two could connect. I'm going to connect those two right in through here, so we have a connection in through there. So that's looking pretty good in through there. And then I'm going to have a lot of black area or dark area in through here, so I don't really need to do anything in through there. But what I do want to do is kind of give myself a second layer of the blue where I know I'm going to need it. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. Again, I'm going to have flowers all over the place, but I know I'm going to see the side of the truck. So I'm just using my base color blue or my custom blue to give a second coat in a lot of these in the on this left hand side of the truck. So something like this is going to give me a nice second coat, and this will allow us to build the highlights and the shadows on it later. And through here, this is just kind of the side of the truck that's going to merge its way into the back of the truck. And then again, we're going to have lots of flowers. So I'm not even really going to do a lot of the right hand side. I'm doing mostly just this left hand side for the second coat, leaving the evidence of those black markers in, oops, except for that one that I just painted over. Sorry, sometimes my hand does not connect with my brain. So you can see as I'm doing this, the streakiness is going away and I'm getting a nice solid color for this base like this. You can even, I'm going to put additional little areas. I'm covering up my chalk marks, so that helps me again through that painting process. In through here, this left hand side, I definitely want a second coat up in through here. So again, this is just my base blue or my custom blue that I had created, and once I've got it in the areas that I need it to be, you know, you can certainly put some in through here, but again, this is going to be all flowers. I want to put a little bit over here. I know I'm going to see the edge of here. I'm also going to put a little, I'm going to extend this just a little bit so it looks like the little edge of the truck. There we go. And then just painting a layer of my blue paint in through here. Again, this is going to be all flowers and stuff. I'm going to put just another second coat just at the bottom of this section, because you'll see the edge of the bed of the truck, and then another layer on my bumper. And then I'm just going to add a couple little marks, additional marks with this before I call this step done. So just bring this in through here all the way over. Again, you can see this second coat really helps to solidify that color and give you a nice solid coat, which is solidifying it. There we go. And bringing it all the way down to my shadow. That looks good. I'm just going to now take it and go right around this little front of this window, so I can have just a little molding in front of that window, and then just a little tiny bit in front of this wheel well. So just down this little side, you might have left a little mark in through here, which is great. If not, you can just draw one, and I'm going to do the same thing, just making sure I have this kind of coming down into that little area and through there. And then we're going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this step accomplished on your truck, you can wash and dry this brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the truck. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors I'm using are black, white, my custom blue, and I might use some ultramarine blue as well. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing the areas that I know are going to be visible after I've put all my flowers and stuff in. So again, it's going to be predominantly the left side, but I'm also going to be doing like the edge of the truck. I'll be putting a little bit of shadow in through here because I know that you'll see little peekaboo spots between my flowers. You could certainly paint the entire back of the truck fully rendered if you feel like you're going to be doing less flowers or if you want to put something else in the truck, you can certainly do that. But I'm just going to be doing the areas that I feel are going to be necessary. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start with my darker areas. So I'm going to work with my wheels first, and then I'll work my way towards the bright stuff. So I'm going to put a little bit of black and white on my brush at the same time. I'm going to create just a little essence of a highlight on the tire. So wherever you have this curved mark in through here, you can just kind of bring a light streak. So just a little bit of gray up in through there, and now you magically have a wheel. Just these little things, they make me happy because you don't need to do much in order to get something to be visible. So again, just bringing this right up from this bottom little corner, bringing just a little highlight up in through there, and you can just make it as bright as you want, get it to just kind of disappear underneath there, and now you've got yourself a wheel. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I want to put some shadowy areas in behind these wheel wells and in through here inside the truck, and then we'll put some highlights. So I'm going to use my custom blue plus a tiny bit of black paint, and again, you don't need a whole heck of a lot. I'm going to go down this back area in through here. Just make sure I have a second coat. I don't want it to necessarily go all the way black, but I do want it to have a shadowy type of look to it. So if you want it to go as dark as you want it, that's fine. I'm just going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel and then just get it to blend up into the lighter area. Just getting this all the way down to the bottom, wiping my brush off, and then picking up my my custom blue to get it to blend up, cleaning up any little edge that I feel would be needed to be cleaned up along this side in through here. And again, you can get it to go as bright or as dark as you want. I will be doing a little highlight on this as well on this step, but just first getting my shadowy areas in there. So this is just going to be on the back side of this wheel well. That looks good. I'm going to pick up a little bit more black and my custom blue to put this dark area in through here. So again, if my light source is to the left and up, this is the area for me that I would think is going to be the darkest, so that's where I'm headed with it. And I'm going to just kind of rub this in so it kind of blends into my blue like that. And then I wipe my brush off on my paper towel. I'm picking up some of my custom blue, get that to blend in, keep picking it up so I can go all the way to this edge in through here, making sure that that looks like it belongs. That looks pretty good. Cleaning up this edge as I go along. I think this needs to be a little straighter. I will also, again, put a little highlight on it in a minute, so don't think that this is the end-all be-all. Plus, you also have wild grass that's going to be kind of overlapping all of this too, so that helps to add a little bit of extra dimensional element. This area right here is going to be the top of the truck bed. So I'm going to put some darkness right in through here. So it looks like that's kind of shadowing onto my the side of the truck. So this is black paint on my brush right now. And I'm also, if the truck kind of curves around this door, I'm going to put a little shadow back here in front of the wheel well, which would be created by the side of the truck or the back of the truck, I guess, something like this. And that will help to separate out that little top to the bed of the truck. So something like that. That looks good. I keep wiping my brush off. I'm gonna pick up some of my custom blue just to get this to blend into the door, or as it's coming around the side of the truck to the door side. That looks pretty good. Picking up more of my custom blue, just give myself another second coat on here. And if I need to do anything with those edges, this is the time to do it. And again, I'll put a little highlight on here. I think I want a little detail down at the bottom of that door. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black paint. Just give myself maybe a little line in through there, maybe a little step or something at the bottom of that door. Maybe even a seam where the door is, right in through here. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe even around here. There we go. All those little tiny details. Now I'm going to, on the back of the truck, pick up some more black. I'm going to separate out the bottom of the bed edge from the bumper edge. So this is more black on my brush, just to give myself a little bit wider of a separation between these two. Nothing major, just something that's going to, again, give you a couple of little dimensional elements. I'm picking up more black paint to give myself a dark inside part of the truck in through here. Now I'm going to pick up some of my custom blue with the dirty brush. So this is going to give me a real nice kind of dark area inside the bed of the truck. Oh, that needs to be my custom blue. Hold on, I'll do that in a second. Again, this is just my dirty brush, so I have some black on there. And this is going to be a lot of flowers in here, so don't worry about this being perfect. Picking up a little bit more black so you can see the bottom of the truck if needed. So I'm going to have some baskets and stuff in the bottom of my truck. So this is just giving me that shadowy area that I'm going to want in a minute. I'm washing my brush. I feel like I have too much black on there right now. Picking up some of my custom blue. This I brought down too far, so I'm just putting that over there. It's my custom blue like that. That looks pretty good. Custom blue on this edge of the truck here and here. Making sure those look pretty good. Up at the top, right in through here. Again, probably not going to see a lot of this, but oops, keeps growing on me. This is one of those steps that I think is pretty necessary if you're going to have lots of stuff in the back of the truck. This would help you to make it make sense. I don't think I need much more. I'm going to just finish it off with some highlights, maybe a little bit of the darkness black down at the bottom of my bumper. So this is black. Just give myself a little bottom bumper edge here. Give myself some nice darkness down there. Just give it a little maybe curve around here. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to pick up my custom blue just to give myself, clean up this edge on my dirty brush. I picked up my custom blue. So this is going to get that bumper to be a little bit darker on this right hand side and then come lighter on the left hand side. I'll add a little bit of additional maybe sky blue, the ultramarine blue in a minute, but right now I'm just going to put this custom blue on here. Now I'm going to add some bits of little highlights. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to pick up my white with a tiny bit of my custom blue to go around the edges of the windows and stuff like that in order to give myself a little bit of highlight around here. So you could go really white, you could go a lighter shade of the blue, wherever you want that brightness to be. I'm using the custom blue plus white in order to give myself kind of a natural type of a highlight. I'll put a little bit of more of a shine on it in a minute, but just getting this highlight on here to tell the contour of each shape. Again, white plus my custom blue, and to just get my details on where I want them, like these little highlights around the tires. Again, something like that it could tell the viewer that this is a painted element or something that was purposely light with a different paint color, or it could tell the viewer that it's being highlighted. So, use your imagination to create these type of details on the truck. Again, the star of the show, I think, in my opinion, is the flowers. But if you want, if you want your truck to be brighter or to have more of the impact of the viewer's attention, you could certainly make these things much more dominant or a different color, and just have a lot of fun with that. Again, I'm going to have flowers everywhere. I'm going to put a highlight in through here. Again, right now I've got my custom blue plus white on my brush, following what I believe to be the contour of this wheel well, so that's where my highlight is going. Something like that works out for me. I'm going to put some, I want some on the top of my truck too. I'm just picking up white for the tippy top of my truck to make, in case there's any little spots up and through here that might be poking through those flowers. So this is just white, just kind of streaking it up here. Again, I know my flowers are going to be covering the majority of this, but I want to make sure if I do have any spots visible that it will make sense. I'm putting a little highlight in through here to take on the shape of that truck. Pick up a little bit more of my blue, my custom blue. There we go. That looks pretty good. I want to put some on this this bumper, but first I'm gonna no, that's going to be all shadowed. Maybe blue plus my white, maybe just a touch right in through here and right in through here. I'm going to pick up white plus ultramarine blue, which is going to give me a little bit different of a highlight on the bumper. So maybe the bumper looks a little bit more chrome kind of a color than the truck color. So this is white plus ultramarine blue. I'm going to put a little bit more on this corner right in through here, so it kind of tells the viewer that this corner is being illuminated a little bit more, and I'm curving it in order to give this the illusion that this corner, or that the bumper, is in fact kind of curved as opposed to just a flat straight bumper. So something like that. And then I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good. I might put a little bit extra white on that left hand side, but the bumper looks pretty good to me. Maybe just a little bit more. I'm going black and white for a little chrome kind of stripe down at the bottom. You could even put like a license plate, like, you know, some kind of fun farm type of license plate. I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to put a tiny bit of white paint on my brush. I feel like I want to just give a little extra pop here. And ooh, I want the little a little rear view mirror too, or side mirror. Just pulling this down the side. This looks good. Custom blue. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush in a second. I'm getting this door to go a little bit lighter. I wanted you to be able to see it a little bit more. So again, it's just white plus my custom blue. You can get it to go as light or as dark as you want. I'm going to put a little rear view mirror on. I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm picking up a tiny bit of black paint. Just going to give myself a little line coming out here. A little circle like that. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And I'm going to put white paint in the middle right now. I'm going to actually put some flower colors in here in a little bit, but I'm just going to start out with a little bit of white paint like that, and then I'll customize it as I add some flowers. And then I'm going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to make some baskets, boxes, flower boxes inside the bed of the truck. I'm going to use my small brush. The colors I'm using are brown, white, maybe a little bit of yellow, maybe a little bit of red. So what I'm really going to do is just put a whole bunch of rectangular type of shapes, give them a little bit of a 3D illusion, put some handles on them, and then call it. So I'm going to start with a tan type of a color. So I'm going to use some of my brown and a touch of white, which is going to give me this tan color. I don't need anything fancy, just something that will look kind of tan. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a whole bunch of rectangles in the back of my back of the truck. So this will be my first one in through here. I'm not using a very thick coat of paint, because I'm going to kind of want it to dry pretty quickly so we can get a couple of little elements on here. So I want it to not necessarily dry on the fly, but definitely give it a little bit of speedy type of drying. So that's going to be the front of the rectangle. I'll do a couple more rectangles. I'm going to do one over in through here, and utilize where you've already painted to your advantage. If you've got a trouble spot, then put a box in front of it. But also know we have lots of flowers we're going to be putting in here as well. So don't necessarily labor over these boxes, because you're going to have leaves and petals and stuff draping over them as well. They're just intended to kind of set the stage and allow for those flowers to not just be laying in the back of the truck. They're being held by something. I'm going to put one up here as well, and you'll see how all these, even though like the one I'm putting right now looks like it's going to be floating, it won't look like it's floating once I put all of those all the flowers in it. So you can put them wherever you want. Just imagine that they're all kind of stacked on one another, and that the flowers are just kind of filling them up. So my light source is to the left, and I want these boxes to look a little bit three-dimensional. So I'm going to put a light side of the box on these two on the left, but on this one it's going to be a dark side, because this one would be shadowed by my truck. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown to put a dark side on this box in through here. I picked up brown on my dirty brush, so this is just going to give me a little bit darker of a color for this side of the box. Then what I can do on these two, I can use my tan, which I'm making more of because I ran out of my tan. And then what I can do is I can add a little bit more white to it and maybe a touch of yellow too. So that'll make it look kind of like a lighter version, but not too dull of a color. So maybe a little bit more lightness in through here. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then I'll use this as my side color for these boxes in through here. And I want it to have a little bit of perspective, so I'll make that box go a little bit smaller as it goes into the back of the truck, something like that. And again, like in through here, this is totally going to be hidden by some flowers, so I don't even care what the back of that box looks like, and you'll see why in a little bit. I think I want to bring this down just a little bit more, and then same thing with this box up in through here. Just kind of give yourself a line on that side, and then just something to the left of it will give you the illusion that you've got a dimensional box. So I've got that in place. Now I'm gonna illuminate with this light tan. I'll put a little bit of this on this front side of this box, so just a little bit on my brush is gonna give me just a little dimensional element in that front part. I can also do it like on the right side of this box front, something like this. So this is just the remnants of that lighter color. And again, I'm just kind of playing with these tones in order to give it a little bit of a dimensional element. Now I'm gonna while that's settling for a minute, I feel like I need to put some black right in through here. I didn't say I was going to use some black, but I'm going to use some black now. So I'm picking up a touch of black. I just want to close off this floor of the truck right in through here, just in case it becomes visible once I put the flowers on there. So that's pretty good. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to put some handles on. So I'm going to use that light color, plus maybe lighten it a little bit more. So yellow, white, and the light tan. Maybe a little bit more white. I just want the handles to be pretty visible. So this is just a lighter version of that tan. I'm going to just give myself 1, 2, and 3. I don't know why I have to count certain things, but I guess I had to count those handles like that. Then I will wash and dry my brush and just put a little shadow on these guys, and then I'm going to call it. I don't need to do much more to this. So I'm going to, I washed and dried my brush. I'm going to put a touch of black, give myself a little shadow on that right side, maybe underneath, right and underneath, and right. I need a little more black. If you run into your wet paint, that's okay too, and underneath. And I think that's all I'm going to do for my boxes. I'm going to use this same brush for the next step, so once you've got that done, you can wash and dry your small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting the base coat for our stems and our leaves of our flowers. I'm going to use my my number 5 round brush. The colors I'm using are predominantly green, brown, and black. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I really want to do is just kind of get a good idea of where I want my greenery to be. Think of this as kind of the bottom base to your flowers, and you're going to see it all in between your flowers and stuff. So don't be shy as to the quantity that you put here, but you don't want the whole thing to be green and black. So I'm going to start, and I'll talk you through my thought process as I'm doing it. I'm going to pick up some green and black. And so for, let's say, this box in through here, I'm going to definitely have some flowers in it, but maybe I want to have some leaves kind of coming out the side. I want to, maybe fill in some of this place in through here. I'm not doing anything really fancy. I'm just kind of telling myself where I'm going to have my main flowers and where I want the greenery to be kind of space fillers. Now, we will be doing another step to add brightness and highlights and stuff to the greenery. So don't feel that after this step, if they're too dark or they don't have enough life, that it's over, because it's not. And we've got another step that will help us make it look a little bit more lively. So you can pull stuff out like that. I've got some in through here. Again, I'm going to have flowers all in through here. So this is just, you know, little space fillers. So you can make circular type motions. You can pull out little leaves, you know, that make it look very representational. This, I just kind of squiggled some marks. So you can really have fun. I'm doing more of a impressionistic style display of flowers on my truck. You could certainly mimic yours after, you know, your favorite flowers that you always want to have, and you know exactly what those leaves look like. So you could certainly make yours much more realistic and representational, or much more realistic and, you know, with lots more detail than I'm doing. But again, I'm just having fun putting lots of foliage and green stuff. I'm going to put some coming out in through here. Again, I know that I'm going to be having flower everywhere, but I'm using this dark green, or the green plus a little bit of black, in order to just kind of set a roadmap. So wherever I have the vacancies, that's where I'm going to have lots of flowers. I'll probably put flower pot, you know, dots of flowers in through here too. But this is going to really give me the making of a great place to start those, you know, have a plan as far as where I want those flower bursts to be. So again, I just kind of keep alternating back and forth between my green and my black. You can certainly put some up in your window, in through here, make them any which way that you want. Maybe you want to have some flowers. Obviously, I want to have some kind of coming out of this basket in through here. Maybe you want some out the top of your truck as well, which I definitely do. But first, I'm going to put some out over in through here. Maybe you have flowers that have really long stems that you want to account for. Like maybe you want to have some really big sunflowers, or, you know, whatever other kind of flowers that you want to really be hanging out of your truck. I'm going to have some big flowers up in through there. So you can see I'm just having fun. Maybe we've got some leaves kind of popping out the sides of those stems. Oh, this is going to be too fun. I think I want to have maybe even more coming out of here. So as I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, well, where do I want this color to be with these, you know, darker areas? Where do I want to cover, you know, my truck? Do I have any trouble spots on my truck that I want to be filled in? Maybe I've got a couple of leaves kind of on the truck floor or truck bed in through there. I'm going to have flowers flying out of my truck too. But I'm thinking that this is looking pretty good. So we're going to be using our, we'll use the same brush. Will we use the same brush? No, let's switch to our bright brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this small round brush away, take out your bright brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're finishing the grass on the ground. I'm using my bright brush. The colors I'm going to use are black, green, yellow, and white. I'm just now realizing I think I said I was going to use brown in the last step and I never used it, but I don't think I'm going to use brown here either. So I'm going to start with some dark silhouetted pieces of grass that are going to kind of be overlapping my road in through here. Make sure I've got some nice dark pieces over in through here, and then I'll just work my way towards the light. This is a inherently flat brush, which means it's wider than it is in depth, so it's nice and narrow this way. So I will most of the time be using it this way as opposed to this way. But I can get different variations of widths of the grass, so I could use it in both ways, but I'm going to be using it mostly, again, this way. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of black paint on my brush, and I'm going to be kind of pulling it up in these arcing type of a lines. You don't have to make them super straight. This is intended to look like just wild grass in the country that nobody has attended to recently. So it's meant to just kind of be wild and long and fun. And I want there to have lots of depth in it, so I am definitely using these darker pieces to my advantage. I'm going to pull some right over the edge of the wheels, or the tires, so again, it just gives me that illusion that this grass is really long and that the truck is on the other side of it. I'm going to just kind of pull up these little pieces along the roadside edge, and again, shorter up here and longer down towards the bottom of the canvas, and that's going to give you lots of dimension within that grass. I love making, layered type of elements like this. This is our third step on this grass, and it's just going to look like you're going to want to walk right through it and, with your shoes off and go catch some little butterflies and spring critters that are going to be, living in this grass. I'm coming over here, making sure that I've got some over on the far side of the truck. Nice and long. Again, this is the stuff that's at the edge of the road. I don't want to overdo all of the elements that I already had on there, but I still want there to appear to be those longer pieces of grass. Back here, I don't know if I'm going to really need to do anything, so I'm just going to kind of leave that maybe as is, and maybe I'll put a couple little highlights, but that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to pick up some green paint on my dirty brush, and I'm just going to start incorporating little bits of green on top of that black in order to just get those two to intermingle really well, so I don't have just black pieces of grass. I definitely want to have the green represented as the dominant color, which is why I did black first, in order to just make that like those are little shadowy kind of pieces underneath, and then we'll be adding some highlights to this grass in a minute. But again, just doing my layering process, going in for some green right now, and then just kind of going along this edge, making sure I've got good depth in through there. Now I'm going to actually wash and dry my brush, because I know I have quite a bit of black still on there, and I really want to start to get some bright blades of grass. So washing and drying my brush, I'm going to pick up yellow, green, and white all on my brush at the same time. So I have a little bit of each on there. And this is where we're going to start to see all those beautiful sunshiny pieces of grass start to emerge. So I don't push my brush as vigorously as I'm doing this, and you can go do the brush stroke down or up. The trick is to just not over blend and just allow for those colors to have their own independent kind of piece of grass. So if it's too light, maybe you add a little bit more green. If it's too dark, maybe you add a little bit more yellow and white. You be the judge of the intensity that you want. But again, this is yellow, green, and white all on my brush at the same time, and definitely just allowing for maybe a little bit more white so we can actually see it. If you can't see it, that means you need to increase the contrast in the tones. So make it lighter or darker, and you'll be able to see it better. And again, you might want yours way more wild looking than mine. You might want more height to it. You might want more color to it. It's completely up to you. You are always in the driver's seat when it comes to these design choices as the painter. You can see I'm bringing a lot down at this bottom, so it ends up really showing like we're just driving right into this beautiful country setting along with who's ever in the driver's seat on this fun truck. I'm just picking up a little bit more green and yellow on my dirty brush, making sure I've got lots of this grass coming in through here. And I'll probably leave it the darkest over here in this bottom left-hand corner in order to just make that not become the focal point. And as you're doing yours, again, if you wanted to switch to a smaller brush to get more individual pieces of grass, that's going to be totally up to you. If you want brighter pieces, just add a bit more white to them. You want little pieces over this edge as it's crossing into that street. Feel free to make it whatever you want. It's your painting. I think I do want some white and yellow little pieces up in through here. Just give little pops on the edge of this roadside over in through here. And then once you've got your grass done, feel free to bend it, twist it, and shape it whatever way you want. And then we're going to be using our round brush for the next step. So you can put this bright brush away, make your grass as full as you want, and then get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the base coat for our flowers. I'm going to be using my small round brush. I'm going to be using a whole bunch of colors. So I'm going to use red, blue, purple, yellow, white, and maybe a little bit of brown. You could obviously make any color of flowers that you like or any style of flowers. I'm going to be giving you a few generic kind of representational type of ways to make some common flowers, and you can certainly spin it, twist it, whatever way that you'd like to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be making rose type of flowers. So I'm going to be using just red as my base coat for these particular flowers. I'm going to be using a kind of a round or a circular type of brush stroke in order to create the shape of them. So I'm going to have this first batch of roses is going to be in through here, and I'm just going to kind of make sure that I put these little flowers in between my greenery, so that way it looks like that greenery is intermingled with the flowers. You can have them kind of overhanging your box, so that way you don't have to worry about the details of the sides of the box. You can really make some large areas. Don't worry about this not being perfect at this point. This is really just kind of getting the area of the flowers in place where you want them to go. And again, making any adjustments as to color variations and stuff like that, we can do that later. So that's a good area that I do want to, if I'm picking a particular color, I want to carry it somewhere else. So I'm going to have maybe a couple of these rose petals just maybe on the bed of the truck. Maybe I have another kind of red flower that's just this little dainty type of red flower in through here, or maybe over on the side over in through here. So you can pull that red color elsewhere. I'm also going to have petals flying out of the truck and like coming down onto the road. So I'm going to imagine this kind of flying through the air. Maybe the viewer sees it over here. Maybe there's a couple of them. Maybe the petals kind of land on the ground behind the truck, something like that. Maybe there's one kind of flying this way, just kind of dropping below the truck, pretend like the wind took it. So that's good for my red ones. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to put some purple ones in place. I want to have a deep color purple for my base of my purple flowers. So I'm going to use blue and purple on my brush at the same time to create this kind of darker purple version as I build these flowers. So I want to have a bunch of these purple ones in through here. I'm going to just kind of these are going to be kind of like bunches, like almost puffball type of flowers. So I'm really just kind of dab in this purple blue color that I'm using as my base for these. So again, this is just purple blue. These might resemble hibiscus flowers or hydrangeas. I might be wrong on the hydrangea. they're those puffball kind of flowers. So again, blue and purple, I'm using both of those colors at the same time on my brush, and I'm not over blending. I'm just allowing for these colors to just work their way into my my painting. Again, blue and purple. I want a big area up in through here. I kind of like the corner of the truck right here, so I might leave a lot of that kind of showing, but maybe just pull some of these little puff balls. And again, don't worry about if you can see through it right now or not. That's going to be taken care of as we proceed through the process. I might cover up this whole corner. Maybe I'll put some over here. I like this corner of my truck, so I don't know why I'm putting a big flower there. Well, just do it like that. We'll put some over here. Maybe back here we can put some of this purple blue. There we go. That works fine for me. I'm going to bring some of this down in through this area. So we'll put some of these purple blue ones down in through here, maybe in through these little petals or these leaves and through here. And again, any area that you find that you want to kind of disguise or hide a little bit, definitely just kind of put a big bunch of flowers in through there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to have some yellow ones there. So then I'm going to pull or let some of these purple ones go flying in the air or flying down with these red ones. So again, I still have the purple and the blue on my brush. I'm using quite a bit of paint, just because I'm having fun using quite a bit of paint. So you can certainly use a lot or a little, whatever works for you. That's looking pretty good. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And I'm going to go in for I'm going to do maybe some sunflower, maybe a couple of sunflowers up here. I'm going to make an orange with yellow, red, and a touch of white. So this is going to turn out to be like a peachy type of a color that I'm going to start with. Maybe leaning, I think I want a little bit more yellow. So just like a light yellowy type, orangey type of a color. This will be my base for my sunflowers. So that'll be good for that. And sunflowers come in lots of different colors. So I'm going to take it and I'm just going to just give myself this round type of flower. We'll put a dark center in the middle, but this will give me some pretty sunflowers up at the top. Maybe there'll be one in through here. And you know, I'm just freestyling my flowers. You can, of course, make yours whatever way you want. Maybe these end up being like little daisy type of flowers. You can, again, have fun. It's your painting. You get to make it whatever way you want. I'm going to do maybe another big one. I feel like I want one up here, like to the side, something like that. Yeah, that one looks pretty. It's the little things in life that make you happy when you paint. Maybe one is on the other side of there, something like that. And then let's see, I want maybe some tulips. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I think I want to have some tulips. I want to go with like a light yellow color for my tulips. So I'm going to go yellow and white. Just make myself a light yellow color. Yeah, again, you can make any kind of flowers that you want. So I think I want to have some tulips kind of in the middle here. So a tulip is just going to be kind of like a U shape with some little, we'll make some little additional design petals on the exterior of it, but I'm just going to make some little U shapes like this, and this will just give the impression of some tulips in through here. Again, you can make yours whatever way that you want. Maybe I've got a little one kind of coming up in this window, even though the grass behind it's a little yellow also, but that's okay. We'll make it pop in a minute. That looks pretty good. Again, I want to carry my yellow somewhere else, so I'm gonna go with this freestyle petals just kind of being blown in the wind, so we're just going to let them go every which way. I'm going to now do some white flowers, but I don't want them to start out white, so I'm just going to use some of maybe that tan color that we had created, so just brown and white. I need to make more because I ran out of it. So brown and white is going to start my, which is just a light tan, is going to start my white flowers. I'm going to have a big bunch of them in through here. So I mean, these could be actually, let me make them into daisies. So little daisies could have just almost like these little fewer petals than, say, a big sunflower. You can have lots of them or little bits of them. You can make them so they're coming from the side. You could make them overlapping the purple flowers. Whatever works for you, definitely. Maybe have some coming over the side. That's going to look pretty. I want some over in through here. Maybe these ones are different kinds. Maybe these ones are just like little carnations or something. We'll put a whole bunch of little maybe white carnations or something over in through here. So these will just be little spin of the flower of the brush, maybe a couple of little dots in through here. It looks pretty. Where else do I want flowers? Maybe a couple of my light yellow ones in through here, just to disperse that color. I feel like I want something over here too. I'm just going to pick up, what am I going to do here? Maybe red and purple. Maybe give myself a little magenta kind of color over in here. Just have fun with your colors. Just make whatever you want. If you want there to be a pop of a color somewhere, put it in there. Just make sure that you hide everything that you wanted to hide. So I think that that's looking pretty good. I just need some white petals kind of coming in the land. So just my light tan, and we'll just get a couple of flying petals over here and ones that just kind of landed on the ground. And then we're going to use this small brush for the next step. So once you've got your base coat in through there, you can wash and dry your small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish all of our leaves and stems that need some little highlights on them. I'm going to use my small round brush. The colors that I'm definitely going to be using are green, yellow, and white, and if I need to go into any other colors, I will, and I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in essence, give a little bit more detail into these leaves and stems so they pop out a bit more and they have more dimension to them. And if I do have any areas that I feel I want to or need to cover up, like I feel like I still need a little bit more stuff in through here because I didn't cover the truck fully in through there, I'll tackle those as well. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to make myself a light green color. I'm going to use green, yellow, and white. I just want to start myself off with a lighter version of green so I don't have too many tones going on. So this is where I'm headed with my light green color. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look for some areas that are popping out that I feel that I could accentuate more so on the left hand side. So in through here I've got a couple of, ooh, that's too bright. Let's add some more green to that. That's way too bright for me. I'm adding more green to my light green color to get it a little bit darker. There we go. That'll be good on a couple of them, but that was just way too bright to satisfy my eye. So I'm going to just kind of pick a couple of little leaves that I see are popping out and just give this little bit of a highlight to them. Again, I don't need to do much. I don't even really want to cover up all of that, the darkness that we had created. That all speaks to the dimensional elements of it. So I'm just picking a couple of spots and giving these little bright pops to it. So wherever you feel that you can get away with adding just a couple of little bright pops of highlights, feel free to do so. Or if you have any areas that are need attention, like in through here. I feel like I want more coming out of this area in through here, so I'm just kind of adding a couple of additional leaves like that, maybe a couple on these guys. And you don't just have to use this light green, so I feel like I could get away with using the green oxide up in through here as my highlight color. So I just picked up some green oxide. I've got some leaves in through there. I've got little transition over in through here. That's looking pretty good. I don't really need too much more brightness on my leaves. Maybe just a couple of little pops in between these guys. That looks pretty good. I feel like I want one of these sunflowers kind of over coming off of here somewhere. So I'm going to actually put an extra stem in here with green and black. I feel like I want one just kind of like being taken by the wind, something like this in through there. So I'm going to put another flower in there. I'm just feeling wild and crazy like that. So that's looking pretty good. And if you felt that you needed any shadowy areas underneath these flowers, you could certainly pick up a teeny tiny bit of black paint and just put little shadows underneath some of these flowers, especially on these boxes. That'll give you a real realistic type of look to it as well. So I just have a little bit of watered down black paint on my brush right now, putting some little shadows on these boxes underneath these flowers. Again, just a tiny element that I feel would would benefit me and make this look a little bit more realistic. So that looks pretty good. Let's see, is there any areas on my truck that need attending? So I've got, I'm thinking I want a little white highlight in here. I want that a little bit brighter. So something like that, maybe a little bit on this corner too. And I just wanted to straighten this out in through here. So this is, you know, I'm getting ready to start to finish my flowers. And I know that they're going to be on top of everything. I'm picking up some of my truck blue plus white right now. So this is the time where I feel like I can take this, seize this opportunity to just kind of go through and make sure I've hit all of my spots of the truck. So when I go to do the flowers, I don't have to worry about anything. If I can overlap the truck edges and stuff like that, and it'll work out. So that looks pretty good. I can also, I'm thinking that that's all I need to do. I don't really need to do much more, maybe just a touch more lightness on a couple of these leaves. So I just picked up a little bit of yellow and white just to, maybe a little bit more white than that, just to pop on just a tiny bit of highlight, extra little pop of highlight on them. And then I'm going to use this same small brush for the next step. So once you've got your leaves done, you can wash and dry the small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our flowers. I'm using my small round brush. I'm using a lot of colors. I'll be using that pre-mixed orange, purple, red, yellow, white, and that might be it. Maybe a little brown too. Yes, definitely brown, and maybe a little black too. I'll call them out as I use them. First, I'm going to put a base coat for one of these guys over here. I wanted to color that or carry that color somewhere else as I was looking at the painting, and I thought it'd be cool to have one just kind of flying over in the wind over in this direction. So I thought that this would be fun. So I wanted to incorporate it. You could certainly incorporate it or not. Totally up to you, but it's filled in this, I thought it was going to fill in this space pretty well, so I wanted to add another one in through here. So once I've got that on there, that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more on those petals. Once I've got this on here, I'm going to go through my flowers and add shadows and highlights where I feel that they would be appropriate. We'll add centers to some of the flowers, like these sunflowers are going to have centers, and then we'll get all of those petals to pop. Ooh, I need a sunflower petal coming down here too to represent all of my petals. So there we go. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to go in for some dark, all the dark stuff that I think would be evident. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of brown and black on my brush. I'm going to put some centers in these guys. So those look more like sunflowery type of flowers. I'm not covering up all the orange because I want there to be a little bit of a textural element in that flower. But you could certainly have fun with creating whatever kind of size center of these flowers you want. They come in different sizes. Just putting a little bit more black on my brush so I can get a little bit more over here. This one I think I want to get a little, and they don't all have to be dead center, just, you know, something that'll give you, this one I feel like I'm not seeing the center, but I might need a little bit of a transition from those leaves up into the petals. I'll put some green on there in a minute. I feel like this one I might see part of it. We're going to have some petals kind of leaning over the center too. That looks pretty good. I need a little more in there. There we go. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up some brown paint, and I'm going to, I've got a couple of flowers like these tulips that I want to have a little shadow on this left-hand side so I can see them. So I'm just putting a little bit of shadow maybe down the bottom or on that right hand side, so that it gives them a little bit more dimension, because they were going to be a little bit too flat for me. So adding this bit of shadow on them on the right hand side, because my light source is kind of on the left hand side, is going to help those pop out a little bit more. I can also do that to any of these white flowers if I feel that I want a little bit more dimension kind of on this left hand side. I can just pop a little bit of brown paint over there, just kind of tapping it a little bit, and that's going to give me dimension on those. I could also do it on these little daisies. I'm just going to kind of pop in a couple of little centers on those. This one is leaning over, so I could just kind of put some shadow in between those. My red ones, those are going to have inherently kind of their own shadow, but I feel like I want to put a little bit more in there. So I'm going to pick up brown and black just to make sure that I don't have any really see-through spots where you're going to see the evidence of the truck. So I'm just adding a little bit of darkness with black and brown. And this can also help to give you more distinct shapes on the flower, so you can see how I can just kind of almost outline these circular type of shapes, and that will give you the illusion of, say, a rose type of a flower. But I want to keep the left hand side a little bit on the brighter side, because again, my light is over there. I've got some flying through the air that might have a couple of little shadows on them, so I'm going to just catch a little shadow there. On my purple ones, I don't really feel that I need any shadow, but I might need little bits of shadow on that truck in between some of these, so maybe even to pop some of these flowers out a little bit more, like these tulips. Now that I'm putting this dark behind them, they're popping out a whole lot more. So if you're having trouble seeing a flower because the tonal value is too similar to what it's on top of, adding this this increased or more intense contrast, like I'm adding the darker shadows in between, that's going to allow you to see those flowers better. So just know, as you're going through this process, if you are having difficulty because there's so much going on and you've got so much little detail, adding those additional little pieces of shadows, like I'm putting a little bit of black in through here, and again, this is going to help separate that flower from maybe the next flower, or get pieces of that flower to just really pop and be more visible. I'm thinking that that's pretty good. So now I'm gonna wash and dry my brush. I want to tackle those last little green areas on that sunflower before I forget about them. So I'm gonna pick up some of that light green color. I just want to make sure that I've got something represented on this little piece that I just put in there. That looks pretty good. So I don't need any more green. Wash and dry my brush. I'm going to go in for I'm doing my sunflowers first, and I'm just going to go one type of flower at a time. So I'm going to go white and my light orange on my brush at the same time, just giving myself a little bit of a highlight on here. If you did not have great coverage on the first go around and you felt that you wanted to do a second layer on your flowers, you could certainly just go in for a full second layer first and then come in and do this kind of, I'm doing like a two-tone brush stroke here, one brush stroke with two colors on my brush to get these to really have some life to them. Again, white plus my light orange is where I'm headed with this color, but again, you could make yours into whatever color you want. You might want super yellow sunflowers, and in that case, you definitely would want to go in more with yellow than this orange tone that I'm using. But I wanted to have some good I wanted to do yellow tulips, so I figured giving my my sunflowers their own color would work better for me. So I did orange on them, and it's a pale orange, and I want these petals to kind of look like they're being caught by the wind. So I'm going to just kind of have some fun with this and give them a little carefree, wind-blown type of a look. And of course, again, make yours into whatever you want. You might find that you know, you want to do something totally different than me. And in which case, go for it. You can certainly add little bits of polka dots in the center here to give that center a little bit more life as well. I'm just adding the little seeds in the center of the sunflowers. That looks pretty. I think I need a little bit more. I'm going to go a little bit more orange down at the bottom of this one just to get that to transition. Make me happy. That looks good. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to finish my tulips. I'm going with my light yellow plus white. So you're going to notice a trend here as I do these flowers that I'm going to be using whatever I used on them initially, most likely just with white as my highlight color. So if I feel that there's other, you know, colors that would help me along a little bit more, then I certainly will do that. But this is pretty good. Usually works pretty well for me. Again, I have a yellow flower on top of a yellow background here, so I need to amp that white up just a little bit. That looks pretty good on my tulips. I do feel I needed some stems on some of those tulips. I'm going in for a little bit of light yellow, light green, just to give, I have a couple of disconnected flowers in through here, so that just helped me give a little bit more of what those tulips needed. There we go, that looks good. And now I'm going to do my purple ones. No, I'm going to do my red ones. So wash and dry my brush. I'm going to start with just red. Red on these darker areas is going to allow for, it'll make it, a second layer of red is just going to make it look brighter. So again, I'm just kind of using good amount of red right now to put a second layer on here to get some of these areas to be a bit brighter. And then I'm going to use a light version of red. So I'm going to take my red and I'm going to add a touch of white to it, as opposed to using both the red and the white on my brush at the same time. Sometimes I don't have the best success with that, so I'm actually making myself a light red color. So this will be my highlight color for my roses. And roses, I just typically, in a small display like this, I just take my brush and kind of give them these little curved petals. It'll make them look like they've got that you can spin it in kind of a pinwheel. That'll give you just that iconic kind of look to the flower. And again, you don't have to do all of them. You can do the lighter ones on this left-hand side. That'll make it look like the light is hitting it from the left more than from the right, or the top side of them. Again, just kind of make sure that you cover any areas that need to be covered. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to touch just a tiny bit of white on just a couple of these roses, just to give just a little itty bitty pop of brightness on some of them. That looks good. I've got a couple of these like magenta type of color flowers over here. I don't know what they are. We're just gonna add some polka dots. I need a little bit of my light red on these guys that are flying in through here, just attending to everywhere that I need to. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. Now I'm going to do my purple ones. So I'm going to use my fluorescent purple plus white as my highlight color. So fluorescent purple plus white. I'm just going to use these two on my brush at the same time, and I'm going to be doing these kind of cluster type of areas. I might still have some blue on my palette in my purple section. So if I do end up with a little bit of blue as well, that's fine. But again, purple and white are going on my brush, and I'm just really I'm not over dotting it. I'm just kind of making these kind of puffball little clusters, leaving some of that darkness from the first layer to show. And again, this is just one of those techniques. If you're looking to give an impressionistic style of painting, you definitely don't need to go full on into hard detail, just giving the illusion of a cluster of flowers, of, some perfectly placed, you know, colors, that's going to give you great dimension and great information. I'm actually going to put this in the rear view mirror too, as if it's seeing that little flower right there. So that's what color's going in through there. I'm going to keep on this trend with my purple and white on my brush at the same time, giving myself, whoops, that's too much white in my brush, giving myself these pops of the purple puffball type of flowers in through here. And I really just try not to be too consistent as I'm doing this type of painting. So I try and give it a little bit of chaotic brushstroke, allowing for everything to just not look like it was, you know, I want it to look like it's thought out, but I don't need it to look like it's every single petal is perfectly placed, equally spaced away from each other. I want there to be Mother Nature's chaotic ways involved. So that's looking good to me. Just making sure I've got good coverage here. I can see my truck through that, so I just added just a little bit more. And then I'm going to go on to my white flowers, so washing and drying my brush. And this is going to be white. And if I need to tan, but I'm thinking white might just do the trick for me. So my white flowers, and I'm just, again, I'm not painting over the entire tan area. I'm just allowing for the white to be an accented highlight around it. So that way I put the tan on there for a reason, which was to add dimension into these petals. So as I am adding my highlight, I'm mindful of that, and I leave some of that tan showing. And then I'm gonna, these ones I'm gonna just do little dots. I don't know what kind of flower this is gonna, maybe it's a whole bunch of little like baby's breath or something along that line, or again, carnations, or you can imagine it to be whatever kind of flower you want. But I'm gonna do little tiny polka dots, and again, leaving some of my brown, or I have brown on here as well, and tan, and just allowing for it to look nice and filled, but you know, with some good dimension on it, putting some on my tan little petals that have fallen down in through here. And then I would let mine dry, and I would see if there is any additional areas that I want to amp up or take away. And then once you've got it in a way that is satisfying to your painterly eye, we are going to be using this same small brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I'm going to use my small brush. I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I think I'm going bottom left with this one with black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date. You'll often find that I like to do mine kind of subtle so it doesn't take away from the focal point, but you can make your signature or mark as bold as you want or as subtle as you want. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a very vibrant spring, summer type of image, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.